Try something smart to chew on. The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It's Friday, the 3rd of October, 2025, and we are on to program number 1462 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. In addition to radio on 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website, rcistlucia.com, and we are also streaming live on our Facebook page. And of course, that is rcistlucia.com. The official page of Radio Caribbean International. And we're also on YouTube, by the way, for those of you who don't have Facebook. Now, of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. And you also have the option of WhatsApp. That is 724-0008. You can message in or call in via WhatsApp. Again, that number 724-0008. We want to send out some birthday greetings for today to Mr. Sant Justin. Happy birthday to you, sir. And hope you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. And also the birthday greetings going out to Mr. McGriffin Theodore. Happy birthday to you. I believe he celebrates 2 dates for his birthday, by the way. Interestingly enough, an individual who I suppose has 2 names. His formal official name, but of course also known as the Mighty Terror, individual who won many Calypso awards and competition awards back in the day, before many of those we know today. So, of course, happy birthday to him as well. We look back in time to the year 52 BC, where Vercingetorix, the leader of the Gauls, surrendered to the Romans under Julius Caesar, ending the siege and Battle of Alesia. In the year 1283, David ap Griffith, Prince of Gwynedd in Wales, became the first person to be executed by being hung, drawn, and quartered. In 1922, on this day, the first facsimile photo, was sent over city telephone lines in Washington, D.C. 1935, on this day, Italy invaded Ethiopia, starting the Second Italo-Ethiopian War. And in 1990, on this day, October the 3rd, reunification of East and West Germany. The West German flag was raised over the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin at the stroke of midnight. We now head across to our dish of the day.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International for this Friday. And we do hope that you're having a pretty good one. And one of the matters, of course, that is still dominating the airwaves since the erection, of course, of 2 signs at the intersection of the Corinth Estate Road and the Julian R. Hunt Highway, a point quite commonly referred to as the Computer World Junction because of that building located right next to that junction. We've seen quite a bit of discussion on the entire matter of those signs being erected, and accordingly, we subsequent to the signs being erected, we then saw a release coming out from the Ministry of Infrastructure indicating the the decision to place those signs, suggesting that there would be that it will no longer be legal to effectively make a right turn coming out of that Computer World junction. Of course, it has caused quite a lot of discourse on social media, and of course, it has gone into the public realm, as we did hear in the news earlier on today, and the political realm, of course, with the Member of Parliament for Grosley, as well as a parliamentary hopeful, a candidate on the opposition side, expressing their views about the entire matter. Of course, in particular, raising the issue of the importance of forewarning and consultation before such decisions are made. The island's Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, the Honorable Stevenson King, was in fact on a program earlier on today, this morning, and he did concede that although there may have been some discussion with certain stakeholders, that he did in fact welcome the comments on this intervention, which is one of the soft measures which has been looked at by the Ministry of Infrastructure to alleviate or to mitigate the impact of traffic on the highway. Of course, principally, it is a situation where we are dealing with a matter that should have been dealt with many, many, many years ago. And I'm speaking about the overall development of that corridor and what perhaps can also be seen as myopia. And interestingly enough, the senior minister did make mention that it was unfortunate that from the start of that entire development of the north of the island, that there was not the foresight to in fact ensure that adequate land would have been acquired and setbacks maintained so as to allow for the eventual expansion of that very important route right now, the Castries-Grosley Highway Corridor, to become wider. That, of course, has been a major impediment in terms of the overall development of that corridor. And so many studies have been done, going way back into the 1990s with the Grand Castries Transportation Study undertaken by Halcro Consult, and other studies done by Dewey Consult out of Germany, and others, looking at that corridor, that linear corridor between Castries and Grosley, which of course is where most of the economic activity and population resides within St. Lucia. And the recommendations have been pretty consistent in terms of the need to upgrade that highway. And it is certainly very unfortunate that we got so close to actually realizing that. And of course, we did see some progress. Remember, between the lead up to the Cricket World Cup, that first segment between VG and Shock was in fact dualized, about 2.5 kilometers of road. And even then, we did hear rather interesting comments coming out of some quarters, criticizing some of the design elements. Of course, the fact being in that area that the lane widths had to be brought down to a bare minimum what it would be allowed in terms of lane width, and that, of course, because of the difficulty in terms of land acquisition and the property acquisition. So many buildings finding themselves in such close proximity to the road was, of course, a major challenge to be able to achieve it. It eventually was achieved, and by and large, one can say that it functions in the best of times, but certainly, of course, it is a bit of a delay, especially when you have heavy goods vehicles, container trucks on that road. Certainly becomes a bit of a challenge, but it functions and generally serves its purpose. But the intention was always to extend that link northwards so as to be able to provide a more reliable road, which could in fact handle the volumes of traffic safely within the corridor. Of course, one aspect is dealing with vehicular traffic, but of course also trying to ensure that there are suitable provisions for buses, public transport, as well as pedestrians. And so got very close to seeing that extension. And of course, we did see some level of future planning in respect of the construction of the Bois d'Ouage Bridge and the Bonterre Bridge across the Ravine Castaigne. They were criticized, actually, the construction of 4-lane bridges in those locations. But of course, the idea was always understanding that there was going to be a need for the widening of that highway. And so, in effect, we are dealing with a situation that is perhaps already beyond crisis in terms of that roadway. And so, unfortunately, of course, the Ministry of Infrastructure is now in this sort of state of trying to find measures to be able to better manage traffic flow along that corridor. Of course, there will be lots of debate as to how that is going to be achieved. And of course, one of the things that they've come up with is this whole idea of effectively limiting the kind of action, the turning with respect to that junction around Computer World. Of course, it is coming at a rather inopportune time, and that is as a result of the fact that we are seeing work ongoing on the Vesicry Road, which then means that residents in that general Labrador Valley, communities such as Corinth Estate, Emerald, and Grand Riviere, and Piat, and all of those areas along that valley are then very hard placed in terms of how they will in fact be able to access the Castries Grosley Highway. I did make mention, of course, that the alternatives which exist are not very ideal either. In the case of the existing Marisil junction, it is a pretty difficult junction to navigate if you're actually trying to get onto the highway. And that's particularly because of the geometry of it. It's on a slope. In fact, there are two sets of slopes. You're coming up a slope to get onto the highway, but there's the highway itself is also on a slope. And there is also, of course, also a junction literally just at the end of a curve where you've got quite often vehicles coming at a speed to approach that junction. So it could be very difficult actually getting out of that junction. And the other one being the Windward Island Gases Road is certainly no better in terms of the issue of navigating it. So the big question is, of course, are there other solutions to find or to achieve better traffic flow, especially, of course, at this time? Lots of conversation occurring. Some of it, of course, will be political, and you will always get that. You'll get bandwagonists who are coming on to give opinions driven by maybe political considerations. But, of course, I think there are generally and in the main, a lot of genuine comments being fostered and put forward. But the broad issue, of course, is that we certainly do need to take a greater interest in terms of transport and in terms of transport infrastructure. And I'm speaking very generally here, not saying necessarily road infrastructure, but transport infrastructure. And that, of course, is important within the context of looking at other modes of travel. And are we doing what we need to do sufficiently in terms of considering that, and how to, in fact, perhaps even reduce on the overall number of trips that need to be made to begin with. There have been lots of different suggestions along the way, and there are lots of things that we can look at, of course. The matter of school zoning has been one of those that has come up over the years. Of course, we did see the construction of the Grosley Secondary School to serve the north of the island, because really, when you look at the north of the island, you've got 30,000 persons living in the north, but for a very long time, there was only one secondary school in the north of the island. That is the Corin Secondary School. And then, of course, eventually the Grosley Secondary School was constructed with an aim of trying to ensure that you had greater placement of students closer to where they lived. Well, unfortunately, perhaps, we saw the closure of that school from its normal state, becoming the, what is it now called? The National Sports Academy, or the St. Lucia Sports Academy. And that had, of course, implications, because here you had a school which was, in fact, built for 525 or so students. And I think currently it might not even be doing about 100. So again, lots of considerations in terms of planning, in terms of ensuring that you have amenities close enough to individuals so that they don't have to necessarily go as far to be able to access those types of amenities. There's a whole area of consideration within planning theory now that is referred to as transit-oriented development. And the idea then is that can you densify housing as well as amenities closer to transit nodes, transit points. And the idea, of course, is that you're allowing more people to be able to maximize the connectivity that comes with being close to some transit route, right? And so that's a really important thrust that needs to be considered overall in terms of how we develop moving forward. But of course, the importance there, of course, the walkability of spaces too. For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, that's all our ancestors ever did, right? They walked. And the average human being doesn't really want to walk very far in general. We want to be able to have services really within a half a mile or so of where we want to be able to go. That's the sweet spot in terms of ease of walking, half a mile. And so that also is a major consideration that we have to look at. And we've also, of course, have to be starting to think about the matter of our public transport system. It is one of those issues that we've seen effectively being maintained in terms of the status quo being kept. And really, we have a very dated, antiquated, inadequate public transport system. And public transport is, or modern, well-run public transport is really a very important marker of modern society, right? That individuals can, in fact, be able to move around very easily with these common services that lend themselves to development. And of course, you look at cities around the world, and they have to have good public transport. It's really very critical in terms of getting people to move around. You may not use public transport all the time. Having public transport does not mean that you may not have a car at home, but then you have the option of actually leaving that car at home and still being able to get around, especially when you may be going to certain routes or maybe for work or whatnot. The time of use of the time of day, that you're using it is makes it very sensible for you to use public transport. And so that is a major area that has to be focused on and modernized. But of course, it means that you have to have a system that can be able to support the kind of demands that we are seeing. And of course, very often these days, we actually are seeing at certain locations very large numbers of individuals waiting to get a bus. And this is also within the backdrop of the other side of it, of course, that many people have, because we don't have an efficient public transport system, have invested in a vehicle because they need one to be able to get to work, to do shopping, whatever the case may be. So we are dealing with a major challenge, and it certainly is placing a strain on productivity. It's placing a strain on even the ability of individuals to live less stressful lives, because of course with traffic comes a fair bit of stress. We see sometimes road rage. We're seeing people trying to get back and forth to do whatever they want to do as quickly as possible. And of course, if you end up in traffic, you end up in a congested situation, it can be very, very stressful. And so certainly, there's a very interesting clip from the Choice TV. I think we've got that clip available on Choice TV, which speaks to the situation right now, giving some context in terms of the challenges with respect to traffic and the transport sector in St. Lucia.
St. Lucia had approximately 95.5 thousand registered vehicles on island, a rate of just under one car for every 2 St. Lucians. The number of vehicles in St. Lucia doubled between 2000 and 2018, with little to indicate that the rate of new vehicle imports will slow down anytime soon. This begs the question, is St. Lucia importing cars at an unsustainable rate? From their arrival at the ports, Minister for Infrastructure Honorable Stephenson King shared that in addition to the slow clearing of arrivals by used car importers, the space available at Port Castries is insufficient for the number of motor vehicles being imported.
The number of vehicles that are being imported into St. Lucia and the rate at which the importers are clearing those vehicles, that is causing a problem on the port. The new car dealers are able to import and to clear their vehicles the very day. The used car dealers seem to have a problem.
Once the cars make it out of the ports, the problems are transferred to the nation's roadways. On St. Lucia's mountainous terrain, the narrow and winding roads, many of which struggle to accommodate 2 flows of traffic at once, are proving insufficient. Breno Gajada, head of a major construction company, spoke with Choice News on how the roadworks being conducted now, though commendable, are too little, too late.
One of the challenges with a growing and an economy that's doing well is everybody wants to drive 2 cars. And because of that, the road infrastructure, the network has to be upgraded. And most times you cannot upgrade it at the same speed of your growing economy. St. Lucia does not, and the region does not have the finance available to prepare so far in advance. So what we see is we deal with the problem after the problem comes.
While St. Lucia builds up the economic investment to expand the motorways, what can be done to assuage the increase in transport demand? The island's public transportation remains in need of modernized upgrades to ensure the financial security of drivers and the comfort and reliability of the service for passengers. Honorable Minister King shared that an evaluation of a database study of a way to determine bus fares is soon to be undertaken.
I'm pleased to indicate to you that after much persistence on my part to attempt to put in place a more sustainable bus system, that a study was undertaken through the Caribbean Development Bank, which we received the report last week. I've not studied the report, but a presentation was made.
In the meantime, parking in the urban centers is a valuable, increasingly rare and costly commodity. Even at the end of their lifespan, the problems caused by the vehicle population continue. According to the Solid Waste Management Authority, 494 derelict vehicles, which pose safety hazards and further congested narrow roads, were recorded and tagged for removal as of January 2025. The search continues for solutions to St. Lucia's suffering from its own economic successes. And the road to free-flowing traffic is going to be long, frustrating, and even more congested than it is now. For Choice News Now, I am Shine Savory.
Right, of course, that very good article, story from Choice's Shine Savory on the entire matter of where we find ourselves. Of course, it is something that we're seeing across the developing world, the challenge with respect to congestion. We think we have it bad. And you go to some other places in the world, Lagos, for example, in Nigeria, has what would perhaps be considered epic congestion. We're talking about 4 to 8 hours stuck in traffic. A city of 23 million people. Of course, we're a much smaller country, 238 square miles, only 180,000 people, but we're already seeing some of the challenges in terms of our road network that we are dealing with. And we heard the numbers, nearly 95,000 odd vehicles, nearly 100,000 vehicles on the road. So we're already getting to that point. And of course, a lot of those vehicles that are coming in are used. There are some levels of restrictions regarding the age of vehicles that are coming in. But of course, given the trends that are happening around the world right now, as a number of countries are electrifying their fleets, they're shifting towards EVs. Of course, China leading the way. They're the world's leading manufacturer. I think over 30% of all vehicles in China are already EVs. And we're seeing, of course, many European countries setting targets to be using more and more EVs. And of course, this is all part of the thrust towards greening our transport systems around the world and cutting back on carbon emissions, and also saving on money as well, because the overall cost of running some of these EVs works out better over the lifespan of those vehicles. So you're seeing these shifts are coming, and of course the great dump of the old vehicles, these other internal combustion engine vehicles, are going to be swarming markets that don't have those types of limits. And so if we think it's bad now, it might actually get even worse as the products get cheaper, as individuals try to get rid of many of these cars. And invariably they are going to come into the country. And we heard again another very telling statistic coming out of the Solid Waste Management Authority. Nearly 500 derelict vehicles parked somewhere on a road in St. Lucia, effectively waiting to be towed away, to be taken away, and to be placed somewhere, right? And that is another challenge too. What do you do with all of the materials if you don't have a good enough system for recycling and recovery? The challenges, of course, is that they end up just simply being parked on a road somewhere and causing even greater congestion and unsightliness and lots of other unsavory impacts. So definitely the environmental impacts are there, We have not yet even begun to speak about the issues regarding air pollution and air quality, because that's certainly a major one. And you have issues of, yes, carbon dioxide, gases as well, but also other particles that get into the air because of, tires burning and that sort of thing. So you have a lot of impacts for persons who certainly are living pretty near to very, very busy road corridors. So the impacts are very many. And so how we can begin to make a change towards a more sustainable, greener transportation system and transportation network is certainly something that we need to start putting up there in terms of priority as we move forward as a country. That's our program. Sorry, for the time being. It's not quite our program. We actually do have to take in, that's our dish of the day. We have to take in our weather report at this time. And then when we come back, we'll take in some calls and also hopefully read some of the comments coming out of social media on the entire matter of the no right turn sign that has been recently erected. We'll be back.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
It's now time for your weather report, brought to you by Island Style.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And the forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east, northeast, and east, southeast near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter at times. Weather fair to occasionally cloudy skies with a few showers and possible isolated thunderstorms, mainly during the afternoon. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles. Fair to occasionally cloudy skies with scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. The tropical weather outlook. Low level moisture coupled with persistent light winds, and daytime heat may trigger localization this afternoon and possible isolated thunderstorms. A tropical wave located a few hundred miles east of the Lesser Antilles is moving westward near 8 miles per hour or 13 kilometers per hour. This wave is expected over the region today. There is no significant activities expected with this wave at this time. A second tropical wave located over the far eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour. Tropical cyclone formation is not expected over the tropical Atlantic during the next 7 days. And that is your weather report, brought to you by Island Style.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous tiles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, you can do just that. We've got about 15 minutes to go before the end of the show today. And the number is 452-3046, 452-3046. And also you can message us or WhatsApp or call in to our WhatsApp number 724-0008. Let's go to the phone lines at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. How are you doing, caller? Wonderful. Yes. 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 Yeah. Ironically, Mr. King was explaining. Yes, caller, are you there? Are you hearing us? Yeah, I was saying that Mr. Stevenson King, the Minister for Infrastructure, was on a program this morning, and he was explaining that as well. And he made the point that the argument that was being put forward by the then Prime Minister was that, well, the project of doing the Castries-Grosley Highway, upgrading it, right, was going to raise the debt to GDP level of the country. But I find it ironic. So just yes, just 2 points. So right. So 2 points. The original design that had been prepared by Dewey, right, back in around 2000 or thereabouts, was actually to construct some flyovers in or underpasses in the major junctions, right? So the original plan at the VG junction, right, there was supposed to have been a flyover at that junction. The junction at Shock was supposed to have had a flyover, Marisil, as well as Monjiro. So they had identified 4 critical junctions where they would have had either flyovers or underpasses to create what are known as grade separate junctions, so that you would not have any need for right turn lanes or right turns at all at those very critical junctions. So that was in fact proposed back at that point. Eventually there was a redesign so as to reduce on the costs, because flyovers can be expensive because you're talking about constructing bridges, right? And so, well, some of them are steel, some of them are reinforced concrete, but whichever the case, but they can be expensive. And so the approach was to utilize roundabouts at the most critical junctions, at your major junctions, which is really where roundabouts are supposed to be located. I mean, we've seen certain things that... Well, yeah, I mean, it's not impossible that you could add them on later on. In the case of Barbados, for example, with the ABC Highway, they have roundabouts, but they have been speaking for quite some time about certain junctions and introducing roundabouts are good, but they do have a capacity as well, a design capacity, and so at some point you do. Well, yeah. So I mean, the different ways you can do it, certainly, but again, like I said, it's really about how you're tackling the costs, and even with the other thing you've got to consider, though, in when you're designing those types of interchanges, is that you quite often require more land. So these because you to get the curves right, you. Yeah, we don't right. So you're right. We don't have any motorways. We certainly don't. And we probably may never get to that point where we actually have full-fledged motorways either. But well, caller, that's very expensive, and well, that's going to be very expensive either way. So, but thanks very much for your contribution, caller, and have a good one. Again, with a lot of that, you've got to consider a number of factors, including, of course, the population of the country and the traffic volumes, and whether, in fact, those things are justifiable. So we certainly do have to look at that in terms of development. It's always good to be thinking about the future. One of the major impediments that we've had, of course, is a matter of land acquisition. And ideally, you really want to ensure that you earmark or protect your corridors, your critical corridors, especially when they are identified as being important for future road development. And that's something that we just have not done, unfortunately. For those of you who know the Claude Noel Highway, for example, in Tobago, it's a 2-lane highway for the most part. but it's very, very clear. You've got a very, very wide right of way where you've got lots of land available, which is already being acquired, which will allow for easy expansion of the highway eventually. And even in instances where you have, plans for new highways, that's another very area where you should, I think, do proper earmarking of identifying the corridors, maybe even surveying it out if you can, and getting it in there very early in terms of getting the corridors established, because that is really where we see a lot of pressure in terms of the cost of some of these projects. Invariably, and of course Mr. King made that point earlier on, you may get the foreign donors, multilaterals to come in, and they will give you the requisite money for the actual physical infrastructure, what has to be built. All right, they'll fund that, but they won't fund land acquisition. All right, that is generally something that will be the responsibility of the state. And we know how we've seen the prices of land go up here in St. Lucia, small island, so you can well understand. Let's go to the phone lines. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. And what's on your plate today? Very good, caller. How are you doing? They're good. Thank you for asking. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Nice to know. I see. Good stuff. Good stuff. Ah, the United Nations address. Yes. That was on Monday. Now, it was my intention to try to find some time to play his address. It was I was impressed myself. Very good. I listened to it. Yes, 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 yes. Well, of course, he has stylistically modeled himself after the late George Odlum. His tone, how he punctuates everything is, yes, certainly very, very good. Very, very good job. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And how he articulated himself on the Gaza issue was very profound. The, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, 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 yes. And he spoke with such eloquence and passion too. I think the passion with which he spoke was really, really profound. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right, then, caller. Thanks very much for that contribution. And certainly, of course, the United Nations General Assembly has been a very interesting place over the past couple of weeks because, of course, you're hearing a lot of leaders coming forward to speak. We even saw, of course, President Trump being present there. We've seen the drama of President of France, Emmanuel Macron, being held up in a motorcade to let President Trump pass. We, of course, saw a major walkout of countries not wishing to listen to the presentation by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, inclusive of St. Lucia, who walked out when he was, in fact, speaking. The matter of Palestine certainly is a major talking point, and the state of play there. We've also, of course, recently heard from the American side the Trump plan for Palestine, for Gaza, and some suggestions being made there as well as to how Gaza could be reconstructed. Of course, it would require quite a lot of trust on the part of the Palestinians to be able to go along with that plan, but certainly laid out a fairly comprehensive process of how it may all unfold with respect to Gaza. Very, very unfortunate situation, of course, for that population, those people who, of course, whose ancestors have lived there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and the attempt effectively to eradicate, to remove, to effect genocide is very unfortunate at this time, and certainly I think needs to be called out in terms of what is going on there. And many countries, of course, of late have in fact recognized the state of Palestine, recognizing the legality of Palestine internationally as a show of support for the efforts there. So let's, of course, and of course, the other comments being made by the External Affairs Minister, the Honorable Alva Baptiste, on matters such as Haiti, and of course the unfortunate lack of support still for the challenges in terms of bringing back law and order to Haiti, the outstanding matters regarding Cuba and the treatment of the Cuban people after decades of embargo by the United States of America, and the calling for an end to that embargo has been a plea made by many CARICOM countries continuously at United Nations General Assemblies. Of course, also the matter of Venezuela and the need to see a zone of peace within the Caribbean being maintained. Very interesting state of play, of course, right now with respect to Trinidad. Meetings with Marco Rubio and Trinidadian Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bissessa, an indication that a deal which she indicated was dead seems to have found new life again, a reincarnation of the Dragon Dragon gas deal with Venezuela. It'll be interesting to see how that, of course, pans out. And of course, we're seeing some good kudos to certain Caribbean leaders, the likes of Irfan Ali, also recently being identified in the Times Magazine's top next 100 people in the world. So certainly great kudos to Mr. Ali. And of course, I think today may very well be the day for the reopening of, or is it coming up soon? But the opening of the new Demerara River Bridge, a marvel of engineering crossing the Great Demerara River in off Georgetown, and that's happening soon. So certainly some major developments happening over in Guyana. I did promise I will be speaking about Guyana maybe next week. Maybe we could get Reds in to touch base and to compare notes on how things are going down there. But of course, in the meantime, we do hope that everybody has a very good weekend. And of course, there is a major political event coming up down in the community of Miku with the launch of Dr. Chandali Harak Singh, the St. Lucia Labour Party hopeful for Miku South, who's going up against the sitting leader of the opposition, Honorable Alan Shasney. So, of course, lots to take in politically, no doubt, over the weekend. But either way, please be safe and have yourself a very blessed weekend. I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.